The Bennett Royale Casino glowed like a fever dream under the Las Vegas sky, its neon lights pulsing in rhythm with the city's restless heartbeat. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of expensive cologne cigar smoke and the faint tang of desperation that clung to every gambler's hope. The main lounge, a cavernous space of velvet and gold, hummed with low chatter and the clink of glasses. At its center, a small stage bathed in a soft amber glow held the night's true spectacle. Mia Torres, a young African-American woman with a voice that could silence a storm. Mia stood under the spotlight, her dark skin catching the warm hues of the stage lights, creating a striking contrast against the deep burgundy of her dress. Her tightly coiled hair was swept into an elegant updo, each curl catching the light like a crown. Her presence was magnetic, not just because of her beauty, but because of how she sang. Her voice, low and husky, carried a weight that made every note feel like a confession. She was singing an old jazz standard, Stormy Weather, her voice weaving through the melody with a sorrow that felt both ancient and deeply personal. The room, usually alive with the chaos of slot machines and high-stakes poker, fell into a hush. Even the waitstaff paused, trays balanced, caught in the spell of her performance. From the VIP balcony overlooking the lounge, Lucas Bennett watched her. A white American man in his late 30s, Lucas embodied Las Vegas power, sharp jawline, piercing blue eyes, and a tailored suit that cost more than most people's rent. His sandy blonde hair was neatly combed, though a single lock fell over his forehead, giving him a boyish charm that softened his otherwise commanding presence. His skin, lightly tanned from years under the Nevada sun, glowed faintly under the dim lights of the private booth. He leaned against the railing, a glass of bourbon in hand, his gaze fixed on Mia. Something about her, something beyond the voice, beyond the elegance of her movements, stirred a restlessness in him. It wasn't just attraction, it was recognition. In her eyes, in the way her shoulders tensed ever so slightly between verses, he saw a reflection of his solitude, a loneliness masked by the glittering facade of this city. Lucas had built the Bennett Royale from the ground up, turning a failing casino into a palace of excess that drew high rollers from across the globe. But success hadn't filled the hollow space inside him. He was surrounded by people, yet perpetually alone, his life a series of calculated risks and hollow victories. Mia, he thought, was different. She wasn't chasing the neon dream, she was surviving it. Her voice told him that each note carried the weight of a life lived on the edge of hope and despair. As Mia's song reached its climax, the room erupted into applause. She gave a small, almost shy smile, her dark eyes scanning the crowd before dropping to the floor. Lucas noticed how her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the microphone, a subtle sign of vulnerability that tightened his chest. He set his glass down and made a decision. He wanted to know her not as a performer or a piece of the casino's allure, but as the woman behind the voice. The lounge began to stir again, the spell of her performance breaking as gamblers returned to their cards and drinks. Mia stepped off the stage, her heels clicking softly against the polished wood. She moved through the crowd quietly, her dark skin glowing under the ambient lights as she made her way to the bar. Lucas watched her order a glass of water, her posture relaxed, but guarded like someone who'd learned to keep the world at arm's length. He descended the stairs from the VIP area, his presence drawing eyes as he crossed the room. People whispered his name, Lucas Bennett, the king of the Royale, the man who could make or break fortunes with a single phone call. But tonight, his focus was singular. He approached the bar where Mia stood, sipping her water, her back to him. "Miss Torres," he said, his voice low, but carrying the weight of authority. That was one hell of a performance. Mia turned, her expression wary. Her beauty was even more striking up close, high cheekbones, full lips, and eyes that seemed to see straight through him. Her dark skin contrasted sharply with the white gold necklace she wore, a simple pendant resting just above her collarbone. She studied him for a moment, her gaze unyielding. "Thank you, Mr. Bennett," she said, her tone polite but calm. "I'm glad you enjoyed it." Lucas smiled, undeterred by her reserve. "It's not just about enjoying it. You've got something special, Mia. This place." He gestured to the opulent room around them. "It's full of noise, but you make it quiet. That's rare." Mia's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "I sing, Mr. Bennett. The rest is up to the room." "Call me Lucas," he said, leaning against the bar. "And I'm not talking about the room. I'm talking about you. I want to offer you a bigger stage beyond the lounge. The Royale could make you a star." Mia's eyes narrowed slightly, her fingers tightening around her glass. "I'm not looking to be anyone's star, Mr. Bennett. I sing because it's what I do, not because I want to be owned by a casino." The words stung, but Lucas kept his expression neutral. He admired her fire, the way she stood her ground. Most people in this city would have jumped at his offer, but Mia wasn't most people. She was guarded, fiercely independent, and he respected that more than he could say. He said, "I'm not trying to own you," his voice softening. "I'm offering you a chance to be heard. Think about it. You don't have to decide tonight." Mia looked at him, her dark eyes searching his face for something, sincerity perhaps, or a hint of the ulterior motives she'd come to expect from men like him. Finding nothing she could pin down, she gave a slight nod. "Good night, Mr. Bennett." As she walked away, her silhouette framed by the glowing lights of the casino, Lucas felt a spark of something he hadn't felt in years: hope. He didn't know her story, but he knew one thing for sure. Mia Torres was a risk worth taking. Mia was back on the stage the next night, her voice filling the lounge with a rendition of "My Funny Valentine." Her dark skin shimmered under the spotlight, the burgundy dress replaced by a deep emerald gown that hugged her curves. The room was packed, every seat filled, every eye on her. Lucas watched from the same VIP balcony, his bourbon untouched. He couldn't shake the memory of their conversation, the way she'd dismissed his offer with such quiet conviction. It wasn't just pride. There was pain, a story she wasn't telling. Downstairs, Mia sang with her eyes half closed, lost in the music. She didn't see the man in the back of the room, a reporter scribbling notes, his camera lens trained on her. She didn't notice how the crowd leaned forward, hanging on her every word. But Lucas did. He saw how the room responded to her, and how she held their attention without even trying. She wasn't just a singer, she was a force. After the performance, he waited until the crowd thinned before approaching her again. This time she was in the green room, a cramped space behind the stage where performers caught their breath. Mia sat on a worn couch, her shoes off her bare feet tucked under her. Her dark skin glowed under the harsh fluorescent lights, and Lucas couldn't help but notice how she seemed exhausted and radiant. "Another incredible show," he said, knocking lightly on the open door. Mia looked up, her expression guarded but less hostile than the night before. "You're persistent, I'll give you that." Lucas chuckled, stepping into the room. "It's a Bennett family trait." "Can I sit?" She gestured to the chair across from her, and he took it, his long legs stretching out in front of him. His fair skin caught the light, making him look almost out of place in the dim, cluttered room. "I meant what I said last night," he continued. "You deserve a bigger stage. I can make that happen. No strings attached." Mia raised an eyebrow. "No strings? In Las Vegas? You'll forgive me if I don't believe that." Lucas leaned forward, his blue eyes locking onto hers. "I'm not like the others, Mia. I see you. Not just the singer, but the woman. And you're worth more than this lounge." Her expression softened just for a moment, before the walls went back up. "You don't know me, Lucas, and I can't tell you. Let's keep it that way." She stood, slipping her shoes back on, and left the room. Lucas watched her go, his heart pounding with frustration and admiration. He didn't know what it would take to earn her trust, but he was determined to try. Mia Torres was the one gamble he couldn't resist in a city built on bets. The Bennett Royale Casino thrummed with its usual chaos: slot machines, chiming dealers calling out bets, and the low hum of conversation weaving through the air like a restless melody. Mia Torres stepped onto the lounge stage, her emerald gown catching the light as she adjusted the microphone. Her warm and husky voice filled the room with summertime, each note a delicate balance of strength and sorrow. The crowd, a mix of high rollers and curious tourists, leaned in, captivated by how she seemed to sing directly to their souls. From the VIP balcony, Lucas Bennett watched his tailored suit crisp against the dim glow of the lounge. He held a glass of bourbon, but it was more prop than necessity tonight. His focus was entirely on Mia, her poise, intensity, and how she commanded the room without seeming to try. Last night's conversation lingered in his mind, her rejection of his offer stinging more than he'd expected. He wasn't used to being turned down, not in business, not in life. But Mia wasn't like the others who'd eagerly taken his deals. She was a puzzle, one he was determined to solve. The performance ended to thunderous applause, and Mia offered a small, gracious smile before stepping off the stage. Lucas waited, giving her time to retreat to the green room before making his move. He navigated the crowded casino floor, ignoring the nods and whispers from those who recognized him. The Royale was his kingdom, but tonight his only interest was the woman who dismissed him so effortlessly. In the green room, Mia sat on the same worn couch, her shoes off, a glass of water in hand. She looked up as Lucas knocked on the door frame, her expression a mix of curiosity and caution. "Back again," she said, her voice carrying a hint of amusement. "You don't give up, do you?" Lucas smiled, stepping inside. "Not when I believe in something. Or someone." He took the chair across from her, his posture relaxed, but his eyes sharp. "I've got a proposition for you, Mia, a real one." Mia set her glass down, her movements deliberate. "I thought I was clear last night. I'm not interested in being your casino's shiny new toy." "It's not about the casino," Lucas said, leaning forward. "It's about you. I want to sign you for a headlining show on the Strip, a full production, your name in lights, music, and vision. No compromises." Mia's eyes narrowed, searching his face for the catch. She'd heard promises like this from men who saw her as a stepping stone to their agendas. Las Vegas was a city of deals, and everyone came with a price. "And what's in it for you?" she asked. "No one offers something like that without wanting something back." Lucas leaned back, his expression unreadable. "Maybe I want to see you shine. Perhaps you deserve more than singing in a lounge for people too drunk to listen." Mia laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "You're good, I'll give you that. But I've been in this city long enough to know how it works. Men like you don't make offers like that out of the goodness of their hearts." Lucas felt a pang of frustration, but kept his tone even. "You're right. I'm not a saint. But I'm not like the others either. I'm offering you a chance to take control of your career and build something real. All I ask is that you think about it." Mia studied him, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. There was something in his voice, a sincerity that caught her off guard. But trust was a luxury she couldn't afford, not in a place like this. She'd learned that lesson the hard way. Men with power always wanted more than they let on. "I'll think about it," she said finally, her voice cool. "But don't hold your breath." Lucas nodded, standing to leave. "Fair enough. But one day, Mia, you'll see I'm unlike the others you've met." He left the green room, his words hanging like a challenge. Mia watched him go, her mind racing. She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that someone could see her as more than a voice, more than a commodity. But Las Vegas had taught her to guard her heart, and Lucas Bennett was a risk she wasn't sure she could take. The following week passed in a blur of performances, each drawing a larger crowd to the Royale's lounge. Mia's name started spreading, whispering among the city's insiders as the next big thing. Lucas kept his distance, giving her space to consider his offer, but he couldn't avoid her shows. He watched from the shadows, his presence unnoticed, but his attention unwavering. One night, after a particularly haunting performance of I Put a Spell on You, Lucas lingered near the bar as Mia stepped off the stage. She was radiant, her gown a deep sapphire that shimmered under the lights. The crowd was still buzzing, but she moved through it with her usual quiet grace, heading for the green room. Lucas caught up to her just outside the door. "You were incredible tonight," he said, his voice low to avoid drawing attention. "I mean it, Mia. You're wasting your talent in this lounge." Mia turned, her expression guarded, but softer than before. "You're relentless, aren't you? Only when it matters," he said, a half smile tugging at his lips. "I'm serious about the headlining show. I've got a slot opening at the Royale's main theater in 3 months. It's yours if you want it." Mia hesitated, her fingers tightening around the strap of her purse. The offer was tempting, more than tempting. It was the kind of opportunity she'd dreamed of when she first came to Vegas, before the city's sharp edges had worn her down. But trusting Lucas meant stepping into a world she wasn't sure she could navigate. She said, "I'll think about it again." But this time, there was a flicker of possibility in her voice. "Good night, Lucas." As she disappeared into the green room, Lucas felt hope. He didn't know what it would take to win her trust, but he was willing to bet everything he had. Mia Torres was the one gamble he couldn't walk away from in a city built on risks. The Las Vegas Strip glittered like a river of molten gold, its lights casting a surreal glow over the city that never slept. Inside the Bennett Royale Casino, the air buzzed with the usual cacophony, slot machines ringing cards, shuffling, and the low murmur of deals struck in shadowed corners. But for Mia Torres, the lounge stage was her sanctuary, where she could lose herself in the music and forget the weight of the world outside. Tonight she sang at last, her voice weaving through the melody with a longing that silenced the room. Her deep crimson gown shimmered under the spotlight, and her presence held the audience captive, their eyes fixed on her every move. From his private office overlooking the casino floor, Lucas Bennett watched the performance on a monitor, his fingers drumming absently against the mahogany desk. He'd kept his distance since their last conversation, giving Mia space to consider his offer of a headlining show. But the more he watched her, the more certain he became. She belonged on a bigger stage that could match her voice's power. He'd spent the past week quietly arranging a deal that would change everything: a slot at the Las Vegas Strip's annual Gala of Stars, a high-profile music event that drew the city's elite and media from across the country. It was a risk he hadn't told Mia about, but he believed it was the push she needed to see her potential. As Mia's song ended, the lounge erupted in applause. She gave a slight nod, her expression composed but distant, and stepped off the stage. Lucas switched off the monitor and leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. He'd sent the contract for the gala to Mia's manager, Carmen, with instructions to present it as a surprise. He trusted Carmen to handle it discreetly. She'd been with Mia for years and seemed fiercely protective. But something about the arrangement nagged at him, a faint unease he couldn't place. Mia slipped into the green room downstairs, her heels clicking against the tile floor. She sank onto the worn couch, kicking off her shoes and taking a long breath. The performances were exhilarating, but draining each, pulling her deeper into the music and further from the chaos of her life. She thought of her son Ethan asleep at home with the sitter and felt a pang of guilt for being away so often. The lounge gigs paid the bills, but left little time for anything else. Her phone buzzed on the table, and she glanced at the screen, a message from Carmen. Big news. Meet me at the cafe in Fremont tomorrow at 10 a.m. Don't be late. Mia frowned, her instincts prickling. Carmen was usually more direct, but this vagueness felt off. She typed a quick reply. What's going on, but got no response. Shrugging it off, she grabbed her purse and headed for the exit, unaware of the storm brewing just beyond the casino's gilded walls. The next morning, the Las Vegas Sun broke the story. Casino tycoon Lucas Bennett backs rising star Mia Torres in high-stakes gala deal. The article splashed across the front page of the entertainment section, detailed Lucas's sponsorship of Mia for the Gala of Stars, painting it as a lavish gesture from a wealthy benefactor to his new muse. The piece was laced with innuendo, suggesting that Mia's talent was secondary to her connection with Lucas, a man known for his influence and charm. Mia saw the headline on her phone while waiting for Carmen in the cafe. Her stomach dropped, her fingers tightening around the device. The article quoted anonymous sources claiming that Lucas had taken a personal interest in her career, with phrases like close relationship and exclusive arrangement dripping with implication. By the time Carmen arrived, Mia was seething. What the hell is this? Mia demanded, shoving her phone toward her manager. Did you know about this gala thing? And why is my name tied to Lucas Bennett? Like I'm some kind of trophy. Carmen, a wiry woman with sharp eyes and a penchant for bright lipstick, slid into the booth across from Mia. Calm down, Mia. I got the contract from Bennett's team a few days ago. It's a huge opportunity, a prime slot at the gala and national exposure. I didn't tell you because I wanted it to be a surprise. A surprise. Mia's voice rose, drawing glances from nearby patrons. You let them plaster my name next to his, making it sound like I'm his project. You know what this city does to women who get labeled like that? Carmen sighed, adjusting her glasses. Look, I didn't write the article. The press loves a juicy story, and Bennett's a big name. You're getting attention, that's the game. You want to be a star, you deal with the noise. Mia shook her head, her jaw tight. I didn't ask for this. I told him I wasn't interested in his deals, and now he's gone behind my back. This is about control. Carmen, he's trying to own me. That's not fair, Carmen said, though her tone lacked conviction. Bennett's putting up serious money for this. He's taking a risk on you. You should talk to him before you decide he's the bad guy. Mia stood, grabbing her bag. I don't need to talk to him. I need to be left alone to do my work. Tell him the deal's off. She stormed out of the cafe, her heart pounding. The article had painted her as a pawn in Lucas's game, and the betrayal stung worse than she'd expected. She'd thought Lucas was different, that his offer came from a place of genuine belief in her talent. But now it felt like just another Vegas hustle, and she was the one being played. Across town, Lucas sat in his office, the newspaper on his desk. The headline glared up at him, each word a knife twist. He hadn't authorized this kind of publicity. His team had strict instructions to keep the gala deal quiet until Mia was on board. Someone had leaked it, and the salacious spin was no accident. He slammed his fist on the desk, echoing in the empty room. His assistant, Javier, knocked and stepped inside. You saw the paper? Lucas nodded, his expression grim. Who the hell talked to the press? I told you to keep this under wraps. Javier hesitated, shifting his weight. I don't know, boss. The contract went through Carmen like you asked. Maybe she... Carmen. Lucas's eyes narrowed. She's Mia's manager. Why would she sabotage her own client? Javier shrugged. Money, attention. This town runs on both. I'll dig into it, but the damage is done. Social media's already picking it up. Lucas ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. He could picture Mia's reaction, her fierce independence, her distrust of people like him. This article would confirm every suspicion she had, and he couldn't blame her. He grabbed his phone and dialed her number, but it went straight to voicemail. He tried again, then texted Mia, "I didn't authorize this. Please let's talk." No response. He cursed under his breath, his frustration giving way to a more profound unease. He'd wanted to give Mia a chance to shine, but instead, he dragged her into the spotlight on terms she hadn't chosen. He had to fix this, but first he needed to find out who'd betrayed them both. Mia spent the day dodging calls from reporters, her phone buzzing relentlessly. By evening, she was back at the Royale preparing for her performance. The lounge felt different now, the familiar stage tainted by the morning's headlines. She slipped into a black gown, its sleek lines giving her a sense of armor, and took a deep breath before stepping into the spotlight. The crowd was larger than usual, their eyes hungry for more than just her music. She could feel their curiosity and judgment as she began to sing, "Feeling Good." Her voice was steady, but inside, she was unraveling. The lyrics meant to be triumphant felt like a lie tonight. She poured her anger into the performance, each note a defiance against the city that seemed determined to break her. Lucas watched from the VIP balcony, his chest tight. He could see the strain in her posture, the way her hands gripped the microphone a little too tightly. When the song ended, he went downstairs determined to talk to her. But before he could reach the green room, Carmen intercepted him in the hallway. "Mr. Bennett," she said, her voice smooth but guarded. "Mia's not in the mood to talk. Give her some space." Lucas studied her, his instincts screaming that something was off. "Carmen, did you talk to the press about the gala deal?" Her eyes widened, but she recovered quickly. "Of course not. I'm as upset about this as you are. It isn't good for Mia's career." Lucas didn't buy it, but he let it go for now. "Tell her I want to see her. This wasn't my doing, and she deserves to know that." Carmen nodded, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I'll pass it along." As she walked away, Lucas's unease grew. He didn't trust Carmen, and was starting to wonder if Mia's inner circle was as loyal as she believed. He pulled out his phone and called Javier. "Get me everything you can on Carmen. I want to know who she's talking to, who's paying her, and what she's planning. Now." The night stretched on the casino's lights burning brighter as the city spun its web of secrets. Mia sang. Lucas watched, and somewhere in the shadows, a betrayal was taking shape, one that would test them both in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The Las Vegas skyline shimmered like a mirage, its neon glow starkly contrasting the darkness settling over Mia Torres's world. The headlines from the previous week had only grown louder, with tabloids and gossip blogs piling on to the narrative that she was Lucas Bennett's kept woman. Each article chipped away at her carefully guarded reputation, and its weight started to show. Tonight, as she prepared for her performance at the Bennett Royale's lounge, Mia moved with a quiet intensity, her black sequined gown catching the light like a shield. She adjusted the microphone, her fingers steady, despite the storm raging inside her. In the green room, she checked her phone one last time before going on stage. A new headline from a local gossip site stopped her cold. Mia Torres's secret past, from lounge singer to high-class escort. The article, credited to an anonymous source, claimed that Mia had once accepted money from a wealthy patron to cover medical bills for her son Ethan. The story twisted the truth into something sordid, painting her as a woman who'd traded her dignity for cash. Mia's breath caught her heart pounding as she read the lies. She'd taken a loan years ago to pay for Ethan's surgery, a desperate act she'd paid back with interest. But this was a betrayal she hadn't seen coming. She stormed out of the green room, her eyes blazing as she searched for Carmen. Her manager was chatting with a sound technician in the hallway, her expression casual. Mia grabbed her arm, pulling her aside. "Did you see this?" she hissed, shoving her phone in Carmen's face. "Who the hell leaked this? I told you about that loan in confidence." Carmen's face paled, but she recovered quickly, her voice soothing. Mia, I swear I didn't tell anyone. You know how the press is? They dig up dirt and make it sound worse than it is. I'll handle it okay. We'll sue them for defamation. Mia shook her head, her voice trembling with fury. This isn't just dirt, Carmen. This is my life, my son's life. Someone knew exactly what to say to hurt me, and you're the only one I told. Carmen's eyes darted away, a flicker of guilt that Mia didn't miss. I don't know what happened, Carmen said, her tone defensive. But you need to focus on your performance. Don't let this ruin you. Mia turned away, her hands shaking. She was due on stage in 10 minutes and didn't have time to argue. But as she walked toward the lounge, a new suspicion took root. Lucas Bennett. He'd been pushing his way into her life, offering deals she hadn't asked for, and now this story broke just as his name was tied to hers. It felt too convenient, too calculated. Maybe he'd dug into her past, looking for leverage to keep her under his thumb. The thought made her sick. Upstairs, Lucas sat in his office, his phone buzzing with alerts about the new article. He read it once, then twice, his jaw tightening with each word. The story was vicious, designed to humiliate Mia and cast doubt on his intentions. He didn't believe a word of it. Not the escort nonsense. Not the implication that Mia was anything less than the fierce, principled woman he'd come to admire. But the timing was damning. The leak about the gala deal had already strained things between them, and now this. It was as if someone was orchestrating a campaign to tear them apart. He called Javier, his voice clipped. Find out who's behind this article. I want names, and I want them yesterday. Already on it, Javier replied. But boss, there's something you should know. I pulled some financials on Carmen. She's been getting payments from an offshore account linked to Victor Malone. Lucas's blood ran cold. Victor Malone owned the Mirage Palace, a rival casino with a reputation for dirty tactics. If Malone was involved, this wasn't just about gossip, it was a power play. Keep digging, Lucas said, and get someone to watch Mia tonight. I don't trust this city not to take things further. He hung up and stared out the window at the sprawling lights of the Strip. He'd wanted to give Mia a chance to shine, but instead he'd dragged her into a mess he hadn't anticipated. The thought of her believing he was behind this stung worse than anything else. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the lounge, determined to see her to explain. Mia's performance that night was electric, her voice raw with emotion as she sang, Hurt. The crowd, unaware of the scandal breaking around her, was spellbound, but Lucas, watching from the back of the room, could see the pain in her eyes. Each note felt like a cry for release, a defiance against the world closing in on her. The applause was deafening when she finished, but she didn't linger. She slipped off the stage and into the green room, her shoulders slumped. Lucas followed, knocking softly on the door. Mia, it's me. Can we talk? She opened the door, her expression cold. What do you want? Lucas, come to gloat about your latest publicity stunt. He flinched, the accusation hitting like a punch. I didn't do this, Mia. I swear, I would never hurt you like that. She crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. Really? Because conveniently, this story drops right after your big gala announcement. You think I don't know how this works? You dig up dirt and use it to keep people in line. I'm not your puppet. Lucas stepped closer, his voice low and urgent. Listen to me. I didn't leak anything. Not the gala. Not this garbage about your past. Someone's playing us both, and I will find out who. Mia laughed bitterly. You expect me to believe that you're Lucas Bennett. You own this city. Nothing happens here without your say-so. Not this, he said, his voice breaking slightly. Mia, I care about you. I know you don't trust me, but I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove I'm not the enemy. She stared at him, her resolve wavering, something in his eyes. Pained sincerity made her pause, but the hurt was too fresh, the betrayal too raw. I can't do this right now, she said, turning away. Leave me alone. Lucas wanted to argue to stay and fight for her trust, but he saw the exhaustion in her posture, the way her hands trembled. He nodded, stepping back. I'll give you space, but I'm not giving up on you. Mia sank onto the couch as he left her mind a tangle of anger and doubt. She wanted to believe him, but the city had taught her that trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. And somewhere out there, someone was watching, waiting to strike again. Lucas met Javier in a discreet diner off the strip the next day. The evidence was damning bank records showing regular payments to Carmen, from an account tied to Victor Malone, encrypted emails suggesting she'd been feeding information to the press for months. The worst was a message from Carmen to an unknown contact. She's getting too big time to clip her wings. Lucas's hands clenched into fists. Carmen sold her out. For what? A few $1,000. Javier nodded. Looks like Malone's been trying to undermine you for a while. Mia's just collateral damage. They want her off the stage and you looking like a fool. Lucas leaned back, his mind racing. He couldn't let this stand, not for his sake, but for Mia's. She didn't deserve this, and he'd be damned if he let Malone and Carmen destroy her. Get me everything we have on Malone's operation, he said, and set up a meeting with Mia's lawyer. We're going to bury this story and Carmen with it. As he left the diner, Lucas's thoughts were on Mia. He didn't know if she'd ever trust him, but he'd fight for her anyway. In a city built on lies, he wanted to give her something real, even if it cost him everything. The Bennett Royale Casino pulsed with its usual frenetic energy, the air thick with the clatter of chips and the murmur of high-stakes bets. But for Mia Torres, the lounge stage felt like a battlefield. She stood under the spotlight, her sapphire gown catching the light as she sang, "Nobody knows you when you're down and out." Her rich and raw voice carried a weight that silenced the crowd, each note a testament to the storm raging inside her. The tabloid headlines, the lies about her past, and the betrayal she felt from Lucas Bennett had left her raw, but the music was her refuge. She poured her pain into the song, letting it anchor her in a world that seemed determined to tear her apart. Lucas watched the performance on a monitor from his office, his jaw tight. The latest article claiming Mia had been a high-class escort had spread like wildfire across Vegas gossip blogs, and he knew she blamed him. He hadn't leaked the story, but the damage was done. Her cold dismissal in the green room the night before had cut deeper than he'd expected, and the silence that followed was worse. She'd blocked his number, ignored his messages, and wanted nothing to do with him. But Lucas wasn't the type to walk away, not when he knew she was being targeted or felt the pull of something deeper between them. He leaned back in his chair, his fingers tracing the edge of a glass of bourbon he hadn't touched. The evidence against Carmen, Mia's manager, was mounting bank records, emails, and a clear trail leading to Victor Malone, the owner of the rival Mirage Palace. Lucas had his team working around the clock to dig deeper, but he couldn't shake the guilt. He'd brought Mia into his world with his offer of the Gala of Stars, and now she was paying the price. He had to make this right, even if she never spoke to him again. Downstairs, Mia finished her set to thunderous applause. She gave a curt nod, her expression guarded, and slipped off the stage. The green room was her sanctuary, a cramped space where she could breathe away from the prying eyes of the crowd. She sank onto the couch, kicking off her heels and rubbing her temples. Her phone buzzed a new email from an unknown sender with the subject line, "You're not safe." Her heart skipped a beat as she opened it. The message was brief. "Leave Vegas now, or your son pays the price." No signature, no clue to the sender's identity. Panic surged through her, but she forced it down. Ethan was at home, with the sitter safe for now. She couldn't tell anyone, not Carmen, Lucas, or the police. Trusting the wrong person could make things worse. She deleted the email, her hands trembling, and stood to gather her things. She'd handle this herself, like she always had. But as she stepped into the hallway, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, the weight of unseen eyes pressing against her. Lucas paced his office, his mind racing. Javier, his assistant, had just sent him a report. A private investigator had caught Carmen meeting with a known associate of Victor Malone at a dive bar off the Strip. The pieces were falling into place, but they weren't enough yet. He needed concrete proof to take Carmen down without dragging Mia through more mud. And he needed to protect her. The thought of her out there alone facing the fallout of his misstep was unbearable. He grabbed his phone and called Javier. "I want eyes on Mia tonight," he said, his voice low. "Discreet. No one gets near her or Ethan without me knowing." "Already done," Javier replied. "I've got 2 guys outside her apartment, and I'm tracking her movements at the Royale. But boss, she won't like it if she finds out." "She won't," Lucas said. "Just keep her safe." He hung up and headed for the lounge, hoping to catch Mia before she left. But when he reached the green room, it was empty. Her purse was gone, her shoes no longer on the floor. A pang of worry hit him. She was slipping away, and he didn't know how to reach her. Mia drove through the neon-lit streets, her hands gripping the wheel. Ethan was her priority, always had been. The threatening email had shaken her, but she wouldn't let it break her. She'd fought too hard to build a life for her son, to give him the stability she'd never had. The idea that someone would target him to get to her was a new kind of terror, one she wasn't sure how to fight. At home, she checked on Ethan asleep in his room, his small chest rising and falling under a Spider-Man blanket. The sitter, a kind older woman named Rosa, assured her everything was fine. Mia nodded, forcing a smile, but her mind was elsewhere. She couldn't stay in Vegas if it meant putting Ethan in danger, but leaving meant giving up everything she'd built, her music career and fragile hope for something better. The next day, she met Carmen at a coffee shop near the Royale. She hadn't planned to confront her manager, but the suspicion was eating at her. Carmen slid into the booth, her usual bright lipstick and sharp smile in place. "You look stressed," Carmen said, stirring her coffee. "The headline's getting to you." Mia's eyes narrowed. "You tell me. You're my manager, Carmen. You're supposed to protect me. But my life has been a mess ever since Lucas Bennett got involved. Do you know anything about that?" Carmen's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly. "You're blaming me for the press." "Mia, I'm doing everything I can to clean this up. You're the one who caught Bennett's eye. That's what's drawing the vultures." Mia leaned forward, her voice low. "Please don't play games with me. Someone's leaking my secrets, and you're the only one who knows them. If you're selling me out, I swear I'm not." Carmen snapped, her eyes flashing. "You need to trust me, Mia. I've been with you from the start. Bennett's the one you should be watching. He's got the money, the connections. You really think he didn't know about that article?" Mia's stomach twisted. She'd thought the same thing, but hearing it from Carmen made it feel more real and painful. She stood, grabbing her bag. "I'm done trusting anyone. Just do your job, Carmen." Carmen's smile returned as she walked away, but it was colder now, calculating. Mia didn't see it, but she felt the weight of betrayal settle deeper into her bones. Lucas spent the day digging into Carmen's connections office and a war room of documents and phone calls. Javier's team had uncovered more. Carmen had been in contact with a tabloid reporter known for breaking scandalous stories about Vegas entertainers. The payments from Malone's account had increased in recent weeks, coinciding with the leaks about Mia. It was a setup, and Mia was caught in the crossfire of a larger game. Malone's attempt to undermine Lucas's empire by targeting his newest venture. But it wasn't just business. Lucas couldn't deny the personal stake he had in this. Mia wasn't just a talent he wanted to promote. She was someone who'd gotten under his skin and made him want to be better than the man Vegas had made him. The thought of her hurting alone, believing he'd betrayed her, was more than he could bear. That night, he sat in the lounge watching Mia's performance from a corner table. She sang, "Cry Me a River," her voice dripping with defiance and pain. The crowd was mesmerized, but Lucas saw the strain in her eyes, the way her shoulders tensed between verses. When she finished, he waited outside the green room, determined to talk to her. "Mia," he called as she emerged, her purse slung over her shoulder. She froze, her expression hardening. "She said I told you to leave me alone," her voice cold. "I know," Lucas said, stepping closer. "But I'm not the one behind this. I've got people looking into it, and I think Carmen's involved. You need to be careful." Mia's eyes flashed with anger. "Don't you dare try to turn me against my manager. You're the one who started this mess with your gala stunt. Just stay out of my life." She pushed past him, her heels clicking against the floor. Lucas watched her go, his chest tight. He wanted to chase after her to make her see the truth, but he knew she needed time. Instead, he pulled out his phone and texted Javier double the security on Mia and Ethan. "Something's coming, and I don't trust Carmen." As the night wore on, Lucas stood alone in the casino, the lights around him a hollow reminder of the empire he'd built. He'd protect Mia whether she wanted him to or not. But deep down, he feared the rift between them was growing too wide to bridge. The following evening, Mia received another email. "You were warned. Leave by tomorrow or Ethan won't be safe." Her heart pounded as she deleted it, her mind racing. She couldn't run, not yet. She needed proof, a plan, something to keep her son safe. She didn't know who to trust. But one thing was clear. Las Vegas was closing in, and she was running out of time. The Las Vegas Strip glittered like a fevered dream, its neon lights casting long shadows over the city's underbelly. Mia Torres moved through the Bennett Royale's lounge with a quiet resolve, her midnight blue gown shimmering as she took the stage. She sang, "I'll be seeing you," her voice a haunting blend of longing and defiance that held the audience in a trance. But beneath the performance, her mind was elsewhere, consumed by the anonymous threat against her son, Ethan. The email from the night before. "You were warned. Leave by tomorrow, or Ethan won't be safe," had left her sleepless, her nerves frayed. She hadn't told anyone, not even Carmen. Trust was a currency she could no longer spend freely. In his office, Lucas Bennett watched the performance on a monitor, his expression grim. He'd spent the day unraveling the web around Mia, his team digging deeper into Carmen's ties to Victor Malone. The evidence was damning: encrypted messages, bank transfers, even a recorded call where Carmen promised to handle Mia's career. Lucas knew Carmen was orchestrating the leaks to the press, but the threatening emails were a new escalation that set his instincts on edge. He'd doubled the security detail on Mia and Ethan, but he hadn't told her. She'd made it clear she wanted nothing to do with him, and he respected her enough to keep his distance for now. As Mia's song ended, the crowd erupted in applause. She offered a tight smile and slipped off the stage, her movements quick and purposeful. In the green room, she checked her phone, her heart sinking as another anonymous email appeared. "Last chance. Leave tonight." She deleted it, her hands shaking, and grabbed her purse. She needed to get home to Ethan to make sure he was safe. The threats were closing in, and she felt like a cornered animal, unsure who to fight or where to run. Lucas leaned back in his chair, his eyes fixed on the now empty stage feed. Javier had just sent him a new report. A burner phone linked to Carmen had been used to send threatening texts to another Vegas performer last year, forcing them to leave town. It wasn't proof of the emails to Mia, but it was close enough to make Lucas's blood boil. Carmen wasn't just betraying Mia for money. She was playing a dangerous game, and Ethan was in the crosshairs. He called Javier, his voice low. I want that burner phone traced. If Carmen's behind those emails, we need hard evidence. And get me a meeting with Malone's second in command. He's not as loyal as Victor thinks. On it, Javier said. But Boss Mia's leaving the Royale now. My guys say she looks spooked. Lucas's heart skipped a beat. Follow her, discreetly, and don't let her out of sight. He hung up and grabbed his jacket, his mind racing. He couldn't let Mia face this alone, not when he was so close to exposing Carmen. But confronting her now with her trust in him shattered was a risk. He headed for the casino floor, hoping to catch her before she left. Mia drove through the city, her eyes darting to the rearview mirror. The streets were alive with tourists and hustlers, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being followed. She'd told Rosa Ethan's sitter to lock the doors and stay alert, but the fear gnawed at her. She couldn't leave Vegas, not yet. Her career, her life, everything she'd fought for was here. However, Ethan's safety was non-negotiable, and the threats were too real to ignore. At home, she found Ethan asleep, his small form curled under his blanket. Rosa greeted her with a worried look. Everything okay, Mia? You seem off. Mia forced a smile. Just tired. Thanks for staying late. After Rosa left, Mia sat by Ethan's bed, her hand resting on his. She couldn't lose him, not to this city or anyone. She considered calling the police, but what could she say? The emails were anonymous, and she had no proof. Telling Carmen was out of the question. Her manager's evasive answers and quick deflections had eroded what little trust remained. And Lucas. She wanted to believe he wasn't involved, but the timing of the leaks, the headlines all pointed to him. She was alone, and the realization hit her like a physical blow. Lucas stood outside Mia's apartment complex, his car parked in the shadows. Javier's team had followed her home, reporting no suspicious activity, but Lucas wasn't taking chances. He'd seen the fear in her eyes during her performance, the way her hands trembled as she left the stage. Something was wrong, something beyond the tabloid scandal. He wanted to knock on her door, to tell her he was on her side, but he knew she'd push him away. Instead, he texted Javier. Anything on the emails? Working on it. Javier replied. Got a lead on the IP address. Looks like it's coming from a server tied to Malone's operation. Lucas's jaw tightened. Malone wasn't just trying to ruin Mia's career. He was trying to scare her out of Vegas entirely. The question was why. Was it just to hurt Lucas's business? Or was there something personal at play? He needed answers, and he needed them fast. The next morning, Lucas met with his private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop named Ray, in a diner far from the strip's glitz. Ray slid a folder across the table. Carmen's been busy, he said. She's been meeting with Malone's people for months. It looks like they paid her to tank Mia's career, first the leaks, but now these threats. They want her gone, and they're using her kid to do it. Lucas flipped through the folder, his eyes scanning photos of Carmen with Malone's associates' transcripts of her calls. Why Mia? He asked. She's just a singer. What's Malone's angle? Ray shrugged. It could be leverage against you. The gala deal made waves. Malone's investors don't like you stealing the spotlight. Or maybe it's personal. Carmen's got a grudge. Word is, Mia was going to fire her before you came along. Lucas's stomach twisted. If Mia had been planning to cut Carmen loose, it explained the manager's desperation. But threats against a child. That was a line even Vegas rarely crossed. Get me proof of the emails. He said something we can take to the police. Ray nodded. I'm close. Give me a day. That night, Mia performed again, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her. She sang Strange Fruit, the haunting melody, a reflection of her own sense of dread. The crowd was smaller tonight, the tabloid scandal keeping some regulars away, But those who came were spellbound. Lucas watched from the back, his heart heavy. He'd stationed 2 of his best security guys outside the Royale with orders to follow Mia home. He couldn't tell her, but he'd do whatever it took to keep her safe. After the show, Mia slipped into the green room, her phone buzzing with another email. "You didn't listen. Tonight's your last chance." She stared at the screen, her breath shallow. She couldn't wait any longer. She'd pack a bag, take Ethan, and leave Vegas by morning. The music and dreams weren't worth her son's life. Lucas watched from the shadows as she left the Royale, his heart aching. He didn't know about the emails, but he saw the fear in her eyes, the way she hurried to her car. He followed at a distance, his security team trailing her. He wouldn't let her face this alone, even if she hated him for it. In the darkness of the city, the game was escalating. Carmen's betrayal was unraveling. Malone's shadow loomed larger, and Mia was caught in the middle, fighting for her son and future. Lucas knew the truth was close, but time was running out. And in Las Vegas, the shadows hid more than just secrets. The Bennett Royale Casino thrummed with its usual chaos, the clatter of slot machines and the murmur of high rollers blending into a restless symphony. Mia Torres took the stage in the lounge, her silver gown catching the dim light as she sang Fever, her voice a sultry blend of defiance and vulnerability. The crowd leaned in, captivated, but Mia's heart wasn't in it tonight. The anonymous emails threatening her son Ethan had escalated, each one more menacing than the last. She hadn't told anyone, not Carmen Lucas, or even the police. Fear kept her silent, but it also sharpened her resolve. She'd leave Vegas tomorrow and take Ethan somewhere safe, even if it meant abandoning her dreams. Lucas Bennett watched the performance on a monitor from his office, his jaw tight. The evidence against Carmen Mia's manager was now undeniable. His private investigator, Ray, had uncovered a digital trail linking her to the threatening emails, a burner phone traced to a server owned by Victor Malone's Mirage Palace. Carmen had been paid to leak stories about Mia to the press, but the threats against Ethan were a new low orchestrated to force Mia out of the city. Lucas suspected Malone's motive was twofold: to sabotage his rival casino's rising star and to weaken Lucas's hold on the Strip's entertainment scene. But Carmen's betrayal cut deeper. She'd been Mia's confidant for years and was now selling her out for cash. Lucas leaned back in his chair, his fingers drumming against the desk. He'd doubled the security around Mia and Ethan, with discreet teams watching their apartment and tailing her to and from the Royale. He hadn't told her, knowing she'd see it as another attempt to control her. Their last encounter, when she'd accused him of orchestrating the tabloid scandals, had left a rift between them, and her silence since then was deafening. But Lucas wasn't giving up. He cared about her more than he'd admitted to himself, and he'd do whatever it took to protect her. As Mia's set ended, the crowd erupted in applause. She gave a curt nod and slipped off the stage, her movements quick and guarded. In the green room, she checked her phone, her stomach twisting at another anonymous email. "You're out of time. Leave tonight or Ethan pays." She deleted it, her hands shaking, and grabbed her purse. She couldn't wait any longer. She'd pack a bag, get Ethan, and drive to her sister's place in Reno by dawn. The music and the stage were expendable compared to her son's safety. Lucas paced his office, his phone buzzing with a new message from Ray. "Got the smoking gun. Carmen emails Malone's team planning to scare Mia out of Vegas and sending proof now." Lucas opened the attachment, a series of messages, where Carmen outlined her strategy leak. Mia's past amplify the scandal and use threats to make her run. One email chilled him to the bone. "The kid's the key. She'll break if you push hard enough." Attached was a forwarded copy of the threatening email sent to Mia, proving Carmen was behind it. He slammed his fist on the desk, rage coursing through him. Carmen wasn't just betraying Mia, She was targeting a child. Lucas forwarded the evidence to his lawyer, instructing him to prepare a case for the police. But legal action would take time, and Mia was in danger now. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the lounge, determined to find her before she left. In the hallway, he ran into Carmen, who was adjusting her glasses and smiling like nothing was wrong. "Mr. Bennett," she said, her voice smooth. "Looking for Mia. She's in a mood tonight. I suggest giving her space." Lucas's eyes narrowed, his voice low and dangerous. "I know what you're doing, Carmen. The leaks, the emails, Malone. It's over." Carmen's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly. "I don't know what you're talking about. You should be careful about throwing accusations around. I've got proof," Lucas said, stepping closer. "Emails, bank records, your little meetings with Malone's crew. You sold Mia out, and you threatened her son. You're done." Carmen's face hardened, but she didn't back down. "Can you scare me? Malone's got more power than you'll ever have. Mia's a liability. She was always going to crash and burn. I'm just speeding it up." Lucas's hands clenched into fists, but he held himself in check. "Get out of my casino. And if you go near Mia or Ethan again, you'll regret it." Carmen smirked, turning on her heel. "Good luck proving anything. Mia doesn't trust you either." As she walked away, Lucas's mind raced. He needed to get to Mia to warn her before Carmen made her next move. He pulled out his phone and texted Javier. "Carmen's on the move. Watch her, and make sure Mia's safe." Mia drove through the neon-lit streets, her heart pounding. She'd told Rosa Ethan's sitter to pack a bag and be ready to leave. The threats were too real, too close. She couldn't risk staying another day. But as she pulled into her apartment complex, her phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. "You didn't listen," a distorted voice said. "Leave now, or Ethan's not the only one who'll suffer." The line went dead. Mia's breath caught her hands trembling as she parked. She scanned the lot, her eyes darting to every shadow. The city felt like a trap, its glittering facade hiding predators she couldn't see. She hurried inside her heels, clicking against the pavement, unaware of the security team Lucas had stationed nearby, watching from an unmarked car. Inside, Ethan was awake, his eyes wide with worry. "Mom, are we going somewhere?" he asked, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. Mia forced a smile, kneeling beside him. "Just a little trip, baby. We'll be okay." Rosa handed her a packed bag, her expression uneasy. "Mia, what's going on? You're scaring me. I can't explain now." Mia said, her voice tight. "Just trust me. We need to go." As she ushered Ethan toward the door, her phone buzzed again, a text from Lucas. "Mia, don't leave yet. Carmen's behind the threats. I have proof. Please meet me at the Royale. You're not safe." She stared at the message, her heart torn. She wanted to believe him, but the betrayal she felt ran deep. How could she trust the man whose involvement had sparked this nightmare? She typed a reply. "Stay away from me," and hit send, her resolve hardening. She'd handle this herself like always. But as she stepped outside, a figure emerged from the shadows. A man in a dark hoodie, his face obscured. "Mia Torres," he said, his voice low. She froze, pulling Ethan behind her. "Who are you?" The man didn't answer, but his hand moved to his jacket. Before he could act, a car screeched to a stop, and two men in suits. Lucas's security team jumped out, tackling the stranger to the ground. Mia's heart raced as she scooped Ethan into her arms and ran back inside, locking the door. Her phone buzzed again. Here is another text from Lucas. "My team's with you. Stay put. I'm coming." She sank to the floor, Ethan clinging to her, her mind a whirl of fear and confusion. Lucas had saved her, but it didn't erase the doubt. Was he her protector, Or was he part of the trap? Lucas sped through the city, his hands gripping the wheel. Javier had called to confirm the incident at Mia's apartment. The man in the hoodie was one of Malone's low-level enforcers hired to intimidate her. Lucas's security team had him in custody, but the threat was far from over. Carmen was still out there, and Malone's reach was long. Lucas needed to get to Mia to show her the evidence and convince her to trust him. When he arrived at her apartment, he found her sitting on the couch, Ethan asleep in her arms. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed but fierce. "What the hell is going on, Lucas?" she demanded. "Who was that guy?" Lucas knelt beside her, keeping his voice calm. "Carmen's working with Victor Malone, the owner of the Mirage Palace. They've been leaking stories to the press to ruin you, and now they're threatening Ethan to make you leave Vegas. I've got proof emails, bank records. I'm taking it to the police, but you must stay safe until we can stop them." Mia's eyes searched his face, looking for a lie. "Why should I believe you? Every time you're involved, things get worse." "I know it looks that way," Lucas said, his voice breaking. "But I swear, Mia, I'm on your side. I care about you, about both of you. Let me help." She hesitated, her grip on Ethan tightening. The fear was still there, but so was a flicker of hope. "Show me the proof," she said finally. "And if you're lying, Lucas, I'll never forgive you." He nodded, pulling out his phone to show her the emails. As she read, her expression shifted from doubt to anger, then to a quiet resolve. Carmen's betrayal was real, and Lucas was the only one between her and the danger closing in. For the first time, she let herself believe he might be telling the truth. The Las Vegas Strip glowed like a fever dream, its lights a constant reminder of the city's restless ambition. Mia Torres prepared for another performance inside the Bennett Royale, her gold gown shimmering as she adjusted the microphone. She sang, "My Man," her voice a blend of strength and sorrow that held the crowd in a trance. But her mind was elsewhere, grappling with the revelations of the past day. Lucas's evidence, emails, and bank records proving Carmen's betrayal had shaken her. Her manager, the one person she'd trusted to guide her career, had sold her out to Victor Malone, orchestrating leaks and threats to drive her out of Vegas. The knowledge was a fresh wound, but it clarified one thing: Lucas hadn't been behind the scandals. He'd been trying to protect her. From the VIP balcony, Lucas watched, his heart heavy. Showing Mia the proof had been a start, but the rift between them was far from healed. She'd agreed to let his security team stay close, but her trust was fragile, a thin thread stretched to its limit. He couldn't blame her. Vegas was a city that thrived on deception, and he was part of its machinery. But he was determined to prove he was different, even if it meant confronting his past. As Mia's set ended, the crowd roared with applause. She gave a slight bow and slipped off the stage, her movements quick but less guarded than before. Lucas went to the green room, hoping to catch her before she left. He needed to tell her about the latest development. Ray had traced the threatening emails to a server in Malone's casino, and the police were building a case. But when he reached the green room, he found Mia talking to a reporter, a wiry man with a notepad and a sly smile. "Miss Torres," the reporter said, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "Care to comment on the rumors about Lucas Bennett's past? Word is he's got a dark history, drunk driving, a fatal accident. Some say he's not the savior he's playing for you." Mia froze, her eyes flicking to Lucas as he entered the room. The reporter turned, his smile widening. "Mr. Bennett, perfect timing. Care to confirm or deny the story about your wife's death?" Lucas's blood ran cold. The accident 5 years ago, a night he'd never forget, was a wound he'd buried deep. He'd been drinking, yes, but he hadn't been behind the wheel. His wife Emily had insisted on driving after an argument, and the crash that took her life had been ruled an accident. But Vegas loved its myths. and the truth had been twisted into a narrative that painted him as a reckless killer. "Get out," Lucas said, his voice low and dangerous. "Now." The reporter shrugged, pocketing his notepad, and just doing my job. The public deserves to know. He slipped out, leaving a heavy silence in his wake. Mia turned to Lucas, her eyes searching his face. "Is it true? Did you cause her death?" Lucas's shoulders sagged, the weight of the past crashing over him. "No," he said quietly. "But it isn't very easy. Can we talk somewhere private?" She hesitated, then nodded, leading him to a quiet corner of the lounge. The crowd had thinned, the casino's noise a distant hum. Lucas sat across from her, his hands clasped tightly. "Emily was my wife." He began, his voice steady, but strained. "We were fighting that night about the casino, about my priorities. I'd had a few drinks and she didn't want me driving. She took the keys and sped off. The crash. It was an accident, but I've carried the guilt ever since. The press twisted. It made it sound like I was to blame. I let them because fighting it meant reliving it." Mia listened, her expression unreadable. "Why didn't you tell me?" Lucas met her gaze, his eyes raw. "Because I didn't want you to see me as that man, the one the papers talk about. I wanted you to see me for who I am now, someone trying to do right by you." Mia's fingers tightened around her purse. "You should have told me, Lucas. I've been through too much to trust someone who keeps secrets." "I know," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry, but I'm not that man anymore. I'm here fighting for you and Ethan, because I care more than you know." She looked away, her throat tight. The reporter's words had planted a seed of doubt, but Lucas's vulnerability was disarming. She wanted to believe him, but her heart was bruised, wary of another betrayal. The next day, Lucas met Ray at a discreet coffee shop off the strip. The investigator slid a USB drive across the table. "This is everything," Ray said. "Emails, call logs, and even a recording of Carmen talking to Malone's guy. She's planned to push Mia out since you offered her the gala slot. The threats against Ethan were her idea. Malone just bankrolled it." Lucas's jaw tightened as he pocketed the drive. "What about the police?" "They're ready to move on," Carmen, Ray said. "But Malone's a bigger fish. He's got lawyers that'll bury this unless we get more." "Then get more," Lucas said. "I want him to finish." He left the coffee shop, his mind on Mia. The reporter's ambush had reopened old wounds, but it also clarified something: he was falling for her, and not just as a talent to promote. She was strong and fierce, a survivor in a city that chewed up dreamers. But she was also vulnerable, and he'd do anything to keep her safe, even if it meant facing his own demons. That night, Mia performed again, singing Hallelujah with a raw intensity that left the crowd breathless. Lucas watched from the back, his heart aching. The reporter's story had spread, and whispers about his past were circulating again. He saw Mia glance at him between songs, her eyes mixed with doubt and curiosity. When her set ended, he waited outside the green room, bracing himself for another rejection. "Mia," he said as she emerged, her purse slung over her shoulder. "Can we talk?" She hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. They sat in the lounge, the lights dim. Lucas took a deep breath. "I know you're questioning me, and I don't blame you. My past, it's messy. I've made mistakes, big ones. But I'm not the man who hurt Emily, or the man who's hurting you. I'm trying to fix this for you and Ethan." Mia studied him, her guard still up. "I want to believe you, Lucas, but I've been burned too many times. I need to know if you're keeping anything else from me now." He nodded, his voice steady. "No more secrets. I've got evidence against Carmen and Malone. The police are moving in, but I need you to trust me just a little to see this through." She looked away, her fingers tracing the edge of the table. "I'll try," she said finally. "But if you break that trust, we're done." Lucas nodded, a flicker of hope in his chest. The past had wounded them both, but he was determined to prove he was worth a second chance. The weight of his old mistakes lingered as Mia walked away, but so did his resolve. He'd protect her no matter the cost in a city where trust was the rarest gamble. The Las Vegas Strip shimmered with its relentless glow, a kaleidoscope of neon that masked the city's darker currents. Inside the Bennett Royale Casino, the lounge was calm amidst the chaos, and Mia Torres commanded the stage with a haunting rendition of "God Bless the Child." Her deep violet gown caught the light as her voice wove a spell over the crowd, each note heavy with the weight of her struggles. The anonymous threats against her son Ethan had pushed her to the edge, but the stage was her anchor, a place where she could channel her fear into something powerful. She hadn't told anyone about the latest email. There are no more warnings. Tonight's the night, but it loomed over her like a storm cloud. From the VIP balcony, Lucas Bennett watched, his heart tight with worry. He'd spent the past day tightening the net around Carmen, Mia's traitorous manager, and Victor Malone, the rival casino owner, orchestrating the campaign against her. His private investigator, Ray, had delivered irrefutable proof emails, call logs, and a recorded conversation where Carmen admitted to sending the threatening messages to force Mia out of Vegas. The police were ready to arrest her, but Lucas knew Malone's reach extended far beyond Carmen. The threats against Ethan suggested a desperation that made Lucas uneasy. He'd doubled the security around Mia's apartment. He had a team tailing her every move, though she didn't know it. Mia finished her set to thunderous applause, her expression composed but distant. She slipped off the stage and into the green room, her hands trembling as she checked her phone. No new messages, but the silence felt ominous, like the calm before a storm. She grabbed her purse, her mind set on getting home to Ethan. She'd told Rosa, his sitter, to keep the doors locked and the blinds drawn, but the fear gnawed at her. Leaving Vegas was starting to feel like her only option, even if it meant abandoning her career. Lucas paced his office, his phone buzzing with a text from Javier, his assistant Carmen's at the Mirage Palace meeting with Malone's guy. "Police are on standby." Lucas's jaw clenched. He was close to ending this, but Mia was still in danger. He'd tried to rebuild her trust, showing her the evidence against Carmen, but the wounds from the tabloid scandals and the reporter's revelations about his past ran deep. She'd agreed to let his security team stay close, but her guarded glances told him she wasn't entirely convinced of his intentions. He headed for the lounge, hoping to catch Mia before she left. But as he reached the casino floor, his phone buzzed again, a call from one of his security guys. "Boss, we've got a problem. 3 guys in hoodies just pulled up outside Mia's apartment. They're circling the lot." Lucas's blood ran cold. "Get her and Ethan out now. I'm on my way." He sprinted to his car, his heart pounding. The Royale's lights faded behind him as he sped through the city, his mind racing. Malone was escalating, and Carmen's betrayal had given him the leverage to strike. Lucas cursed himself for not moving faster. He'd wanted to protect Mia without alarming her, but now she was in the crosshairs. Mia left the Royale through a side exit, her heels clicking against the pavement as she hurried to her car. Ethan was waiting at home, and every second away from him felt like a risk. The parking lot was dimly lit, the shadows long and jagged. She scanned her surroundings, her nerves on edge, but saw nothing out of place. She unlocked her car, tossed her purse, and slid into the driver's seat. As she pulled out of the lot, a van screeched to a stop in front of her, blocking her path. 3 men in dark hoodies jumped out, their faces obscured. Mia's heart lurched as she slammed on the brakes, her hands fumbling for her phone. Before she could dial, one of the men yanked her door open, grabbing her arm. "Get out!" he growled, his grip bruising. Mia fought back, kicking and twisting, but another man grabbed her from behind. "Where's the kid?" he demanded, his voice rough. "Tell us or this gets worse." Panic surged through her, but before she could scream, headlights flooded the lot. A black SUV roared in, and two of Lucas's security team leapt out, weapons drawn. "Let her go," one shouted, tackling the nearest attacker. The second guard pulled Mia free, shielding her as the third thug lunged. The fight was chaos, grunts, curses, the thud of fists. Mia stumbled back, her breath ragged when another car screeched to a stop. Lucas jumped out, his face a mask of fury. He didn't hesitate, diving into the fray and landing a solid punch on the third attacker's jaw. The man crumpled, and the other two, outnumbered, scrambled back to their van and sped off. Lucas turned to Mia, his chest heaving. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice tight with worry. She nodded, her hands shaking as she clutched her purse. "Ethan. Where's Ethan?" "He's safe," Lucas said, gesturing to his security team. "My guys are at your apartment. Rose is with him. Door's locked. Come with me. We need to get you both somewhere secure." Mia hesitated, her eyes searching his face. The adrenaline was still pumping, but she saw something in his expression. Fear, not for himself, but for her. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "Why risk yourself for me?" Lucas stepped closer, his voice low. "Because I care about you, Mia. You and Ethan. I'm not letting anyone hurt you." For the first time, she didn't pull away. She nodded, letting him guide her to his car. As they drove to her apartment, Lucas's security team tailing them, Mia's mind raced. The attack had been real, and the threat against Ethan was undeniable. Lucas had saved her, but the danger was far from over. Mia rushed to Ethan, who was curled up with Rosa on the couch at the apartment, unaware of the chaos. She hugged him tightly, her heart still pounding. Lucas stood by the door, giving her space but watching closely. His security team had secured the building, and Javier coordinated with the police to track the van. Mia turned to Lucas, her voice steady despite the fear. "You knew this was coming, didn't you?" "Not this," Lucas said, his expression grim. "But I suspected Malone was escalating. Carmen's been working with him, sending those emails to scare you off. I've got proof, and the police are moving on her tonight." Mia's eyes widened. "Carmen. She's behind the threats." Lucas nodded, pulling out his phone to show her the latest evidence, a recording of Carmen telling Malone's associate to make it quick with Mia. "She wanted you gone, Mia. You were getting too big, threatening her control. Malone just gave her the money to do it." Mia's hands clenched into fists, anger replacing fear. "I trusted her. She was family." "I know," Lucas said softly. "But you're not alone anymore. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." She looked at him, the walls around her heart cracking just a little. He'd risked his life for her, and that wasn't something she could ignore. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But this isn't over." "No," Lucas admitted, "but I'll make sure it ends for you and Ethan." As the night stretched, Mia held Ethan close, Lucas standing guard like a sentinel. The city outside glittered, but its shadows were closing in, and the fight for Mia's future was only beginning. The Las Vegas Strip buzzed with anticipation, its lights pulsing in rhythm with the city's heartbeat. Inside the Grand Theater, at the Bennett Royale, the stage was set for a charity concert benefiting Las Vegas children's shelters, a high-profile event Lucas Bennett had bankrolled to showcase Mia Torres's talent. The auditorium was packed, and the crowd was a mix of locals, tourists, and media, all eager to see the singer whose name had dominated headlines for weeks. Mia stood backstage, her emerald gown shimmering under the soft lights, her nerves taut. She sang to herself softly, "Ain't no sunshine," to steady her hands. Tonight was her chance to reclaim her narrative, but the weight of the past weeks, tabloid scandals, Carmen's betrayal and the attack in the parking lot hung over her like a dark cloud. Lucas watched from the wings, his tailored suit crisp, but his expression tense. He'd spent the day ensuring the concert's security was airtight, with his team sweeping the venue and the police on standby to arrest Carmen. The evidence against her was overwhelming: emails, recordings, and bank records linking her to Victor Malone's scheme to ruin Mia. But Lucas knew Malone wouldn't go down easily. His rival had too much to lose. Tonight, Lucas was gambling everything, not just his reputation, but his heart. Mia was more than a star to him now. She was someone he'd fight for no matter the cost. Mia took the stage as the house lights dimmed, commanding silence from the crowd. She began with, "What a wonderful world." Her voice rich and soulful, filling the theater with a warmth that belied her inner turmoil. The audience was spellbound, but backstage tension was building. Lucas's security team had spotted Carmen in the control booth, her movements furtive. Javier whispered into his earpiece, "She's got access to the AV system. We think she's planning something." Lucas's jaw tightened. "Stop her, now!" Mia moved through her set, each song a defiance against the forces trying to break her. She sang, "I Will Survive," her voice soaring with a fire that brought the crowd to its feet. But as she transitioned to Over the Rainbow, the massive LED screen behind her flickered. A video began to play, grainy footage of Mia accepting an envelope from a person years ago, followed by a voiceover claiming it was payment for services rendered. The words, "Mia Torres, the truth," flashed across the screen, accompanied by tabloid headlines branding her a high-class escort. The crowd gasped, murmurs rippling through the auditorium. Mia froze, her voice faltering as she turned to see the screen. The humiliation was instant, a knife to her heart. Reporters in the front row scrambled for their cameras, their flashes blinding. She wanted to run, to disappear, but her feet wouldn't move. Backstage, Lucas sprinted to the control booth, where his security team had pinned Carmen against the wall. She was clutching a laptop, her face pale but defiant. "You can't stop it," she spat. "The video's already out there. She's finished." Lucas grabbed the laptop, slamming it shut. "You're done, Carmen. The police are waiting downstairs." He turned to Javier. "Cut the feed, now." The screen went dark, but the damage was done. The crowd was buzzing, some shouting questions, others whispering in judgment. Lucas ran to the stage, his heart pounding. Mia stood frozen, her eyes wide with shock. He didn't think he acted. He strode into the spotlight, took her hand, and faced the audience. "Enough," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. The crowd fell silent, cameras still flashing. "I'm Lucas Bennett, here to set the record straight. Mia Torres is the most talented, honest woman I know. The lies you just saw, they're the work of people who want to tear her down because she's a threat to their power, their control. I love her. Anyone who comes for her must go through me." The auditorium was stunned into silence, then erupted in a mix of gasps and applause. Mia's hand tightened in his, her eyes searching his face. She hadn't expected this, his public declaration, his willingness to stand with her in the face of ruin. For the first time, she felt a spark of trust, fragile but real. She stepped to the microphone, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "This is my truth," she said. "I'm a mother, a singer, a survivor. I've made mistakes, but I've never sold my soul. This city tried to break me, but I'm still here, and I'm not done." She launched into amazing grace, her voice raw and powerful, turning the crowd's judgment into awe. The reporters lowered their cameras, caught in the spell of her defiance. Lucas stood by her side, his presence a silent promise. The song ended to a standing ovation, the applause deafening. Backstage, Carmen was in handcuffs, escorted out by the police. Lucas's team had recovered the laptop, and the video was being scrubbed from the internet, though the damage would linger. Mia sat in the green room, her hands trembling as she sipped water. Lucas knelt beside her, his voice soft. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have stopped her sooner." Mia shook her head, her eyes meeting his. "You stood up for me out there. No one's ever done that before." "I meant it," Lucas said, his voice raw. "I love you, Mia. I know you don't trust easily, and I don't blame you. But I'm here for you and Ethan, for as long as you'll let me." She looked at him, the walls around her heart crumbling. "I'm scared, Lucas, but I believe you." He took her hand, his touch gentle but firm. "We'll get through this, together." As the crowd outside chanted for an encore, Mia stood, her resolve hardening. The city had tried to break her, but she was stronger than its lies. With Lucas by her side, she felt a flicker of hope, a chance to rewrite her story on her own terms. The Las Vegas Strip glowed with its relentless allure, a glittering facade that hid the city's underbelly of betrayal and ambition. Inside the Bennett Royale Casino, the air was thick with the aftermath of the charity concert, where Carmen's vicious video had nearly destroyed Mia Torres' reputation. The crowd's standing ovation had been a victory, but the wounds were fresh, and Mia felt them keenly as she sat in the green room, her emerald gown now a heavy reminder of the night's chaos. Her hands still trembled, but her resolve was ironclad. She'd face the fire and come out stronger, thanks in part to Lucas Bennett's public stand at her side. Lucas stood by the door, his tailored suit slightly rumpled from the evening's frenzy. His eyes, shadowed with worry, never left Mia. Carmen was in police custody, her laptop seized, and the evidence against her was airtight emails, recordings, and bank records linking her to Victor Malone's scheme to ruin Mia. The police were also building a case against Malone, but his influence made him a slippery target. Lucas knew the fight wasn't over, but his focus was on Mia tonight. Her trust in him, fragile as it was, felt like a lifeline in a city that thrived on breaking bonds. Mia set her water glass down, her gaze fixed on the floor. "I can't believe she did this," she said, her voice low but steady. "Carmen was there, when I had nothing, when Ethan was in the hospital, when I was singing in dive bars for tips. How could she turn on me like this?" Lucas stepped closer, his voice soft. "Some people can't handle seeing others rise. You were outgrowing her, Mia. She saw you as a threat, and Malone gave her the money to act on it." Mia looked up, her eyes searching his face. "And you? Why are you doing this, Lucas? You stood up there and told the world you love me. Why risk everything for someone you barely know?" He knelt beside her, his expression raw. "Because I do know you. Not just the singer, but also the woman who fights for her son, who sings like her life depends on it. I've seen you, Mia, and I'm not walking away." She held his gaze, the weight of his words sinking in. The city had taught her to guard her heart, but Lucas's actions, saving her from the attack, standing up for her on stage, were chipping away at her defenses. Still, doubt lingered. The reporter's revelations about his past, the accident that took his wife, had stirred questions she couldn't ignore. "Tell me the truth," she said, her voice firm. "About Emily. About what happened." Lucas's shoulders tensed, but he didn't look away. He sat across from her, his hands clasped tightly. "I owe you that," he said. 5 years ago, I was a different man, driven, reckless, consumed by the casino. Emily was my wife, my anchor, but we were falling apart. We fought that night about my work, my drinking the life we were losing. I'd had too much bourbon, and she didn't trust me to drive. She took the keys and sped off in anger. The crash. It was a curve. She didn't see a mistake that cost her life. The papers said I was behind the wheel, but I wasn't. I let the lie stick because fighting it meant reliving the worst night of my life. Mia listened, her throat tight. The pain in his voice was real, a raw edge that mirrored her own scars. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she asked. "Because I was ashamed," Lucas admitted. "I carried the guilt, still do. I didn't want you to see me as the man who let his wife die. I wanted to be someone you could trust and protect you." Tears welled in Mia's eyes, but she blinked them back. "We're both broken, aren't we?" she said softly. "I've been running from my past, 2 debts, mistakes, the things I did to keep Ethan safe. I could outrun them, but this city doesn't let you forget." Lucas reached for her hand, his touch gentle but firm. "You don't have to run anymore. I'm here, Mia, for you and Ethan. No more secrets." She looked at their joined hands, her heart torn between fear and hope. Trust was a gamble, but for the first time she felt the odds might be in her favor. "I'm trying," she said, her voice breaking. "I want to believe you, Lucas." "I do." He squeezed her hand, a flicker of relief in his eyes. "That's enough for now." The green room door opened, and Lucas's assistant Javier stepped in. "Police just called," he said. "Carmen's talking. She's trying to pin it all on Malone, but they have enough to charge her with extortion and conspiracy. They're still digging into Malone's operation." Lucas nodded, his expression grim. "Good. Keep me posted." As Javier left, Mia stood smoothing her gown. "I need to get home to Ethan," she said. "But thank you, Lucas, for tonight, for everything." He stood too, his voice soft but resolute. "I'm not going anywhere. Get some rest. We'll figure out what's next." Mia nodded, a small smile breaking through her exhaustion. She left the green room, her steps lighter than they'd been in weeks. The city outside was still a maze of lies and danger, but for the first time, she didn't feel alone. The next day, Lucas met with his lawyer at a discreet office off the Strip. The evidence against Carmen was ironclad, and her arrest had sent shockwaves through Vegas's entertainment scene. But Malone was still a problem. His influence ran deep, and Lucas knew he'd try to retaliate. The lawyer laid out the plan: cooperate with the police, provide the evidence, and let them build a case against Malone's empire. It was a long shot, but Lucas was all in. He spent the afternoon coordinating with his security team, ensuring Mia and Ethan were protected. He'd rented a safe house outside the city where they could stay if things escalated. But he hadn't told Mia yet she was still processing Carmen's betrayal, and he didn't want to push her too fast. That evening, Mia performed again, her voice carrying a new strength as she sang "Bridge Over Troubled Water." The crowd was smaller, the scandal lingering, but those who came were captivated. Lucas watched from the back, his heart swelling with pride. Like him, she was a survivor. Together, they could face anything. After the show, he found her in the green room, sipping water and checking her phone. "No new threats," she said, her voice steady. "Maybe it's over." Lucas shook his head. "Not yet. Malone's still out there, but I've got a safe place for you and Ethan just in case. You don't have to decide now, but it's there." Mia looked at him, her eyes softening. "You're really not giving up, are you?" "Not on you," he said, a half smile tugging at his lips. "Not ever." She stood, stepping closer. "I'm starting to believe that." As they left the green room, Lucas felt a spark of hope. The city had tried to break them both, but they were still standing. And for the first time, he dared to imagine a future where they could heal together. Mia spent the next few days lying low, staying with Ethan at home, while Lucas's team monitored the situation. The police had questioned Carmen, who was now cooperating, in exchange for a lighter sentence. She'd admitted to leaking Mia's past to the press and sending the threatening emails all under Malone's direction. But Malone was denying everything, his lawyers spinning a web of alibis. Lucas visited Mia's apartment, bringing takeout and a stuffed dinosaur for Ethan. The boy was shy at first, but Lucas's easy charm won him over, and soon they were playing with action figures on the living room floor. Mia watched from the couch, her heart aching with gratitude and fear. Lucas was becoming a part of their lives, and while it felt right, it also scared her. Trust was still a leap. That night, as Ethan slept, Mia and Lucas sat on the balcony, the city's lights sprawling below. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted, letting someone in. "It's just Ethan and me for so long." Lucas nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "I don't either. After Emily, I thought I'd never let anyone close again. But you make me want to try." Mia reached for his hand, her fingers intertwining with his. "Then let's try. Together." They sat in silence, the city's chaos fading into the background. For the first time, Mia felt like she could breathe, like the weight of her past was lifting. Lucas wasn't just a protector, he was a partner, and that was a risk she was finally willing to take. The Las Vegas Strip sparkled under a velvet sky, its neon lights a testament to the city's unyielding ambition. The Grand Theater at the Bennett Royale was alive with anticipation, hosting a charity concert for Las Vegas children's shelters, a new beginning for Mia Torres, who stood backstage in a shimmering ivory gown, her nerves steady but electric. This was her chance to reclaim her voice, to show the world she was more than the scandals that had tried to define her. The past weeks, Carmen's betrayal, the threats against Ethan, the attack in the parking lot, had tested her, but she'd emerged stronger with Lucas Bennett by her side. Lucas watched from the wings. His suit was impeccable, but his expression was soft and proud. The police had arrested Carmen, and her confession had implicated Victor Malone, though his lawyers were still fighting to keep him untouchable. Lucas had poured his resources into ensuring Mia's safety with security teams stationed around the theater and a safe house ready if needed. But tonight wasn't about fear. It was about hope. Mia's performance would be a beacon, a declaration that the city's shadows wouldn't break her. Backstage, Ethan tugged at Mia's gown, his eyes wide with excitement. "You're gonna sing great, Mom," he said, clutching his stuffed dinosaur, a gift from Lucas. Mia knelt, hugging him tightly. "Thanks, baby," she whispered. "Stay with Rosa, okay? I'll see you after." Rosa, Ethan's sitter, smiled reassuringly. "We'll be right here." Lucas approached, his voice low. "You ready for this?" Mia nodded, a small smile, breaking through more than I've ever been. He squeezed her hand, his touch a quiet anchor. "You've got this, and I've got you." The house lights dimmed, and Mia took the stage, commanding silence from the packed auditorium. She began with "Lean on Me," her voice warm and powerful, filling the space with a promise of resilience. The crowd, a mix of locals, donors, and media, leaned in captivated. There were no whispers of scandal tonight, only awe for the woman who'd faced the fire and kept singing. Lucas watched, his heart swelling. He'd fallen for Mia, not just her voice, but her strength, fierce love for Ethan, and refusal to let Vegas break her. The past had wounded them both, his guilt over Emily's death, her struggles to protect her son, but together they were finding a way forward. He'd become more than her protector. He was her partner, and Ethan was starting to feel like family. Halfway through the set, Mia paused, stepping to the microphone. "This night means everything to me," she said, her voice clear. "Not just for the kids we're helping, but for what it represents. This city tried to tear me down, but I'm still here thanks to the people who believed in me. This next song is for them." She launched into "You Raise Me," her voice soaring with emotion. Lucas felt a lump in his throat as she glanced at him silently, acknowledging his role in her fight. Watching from the wings with Rosa, Ethan clapped excitedly, his dinosaur tucked under his arm. The song ended to a standing ovation, the crowd's applause echoing through the theater. Mia bowed, tears glistening in her eyes. And Lucas knew this was her moment. A triumph over the lies, the threats, the city itself. After the concert, the green room was a flurry of activity reporters clamoring for quotes, donors offering congratulations. Mia navigated it gracefully, her hand resting on Ethan's shoulder as he stayed close. Lucas stood nearby, deflecting the press with practiced ease. His lawyer had called earlier. Carmen's plea deal was finalized, and the police were closing in on Malone's financial records. The net was tightening, but Lucas focused on Mia and Ethan. Mia pulled Lucas aside as the crowd thinned, her expression soft but resolute. "I couldn't have done this without you," she said. "You didn't just save me, you gave me a chance to fight for myself." Lucas smiled, his hand brushing hers. "You didn't need saving, Mia. You're the strongest person I know. I just wanted to be in your corner." She laughed, a sound that warmed him. "You're good at it." Ethan tugged at Lucas's sleeve, holding up his dinosaur. "Can you play with me later?" he asked, his eyes bright. Lucas knelt, ruffling his hair. "Anytime, kid." Mia watched them, her heart full. Lucas wasn't just a partner. He was becoming a father figure to Ethan, a role she'd never dared hope for. The city had tried to break them, but it had also brought them together, forging something real amidst the neon lies. Mia and Lucas organized a follow-up event the following week, a community day at the Royale, with games and music for the children's shelters. Mia performed a short set, her voice ringing over the casino's outdoor plaza. Ethan ran through the crowd laughing as Lucas chased him with a water gun, both soaked and grinning. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the strip, Mia and Lucas stood on the plaza's edge, watching Ethan play. The city's lights flickered to life, but for once, they didn't feel like a trap. Mia leaned against Lucas, her head resting on his shoulder. "I used to think Vegas was all smoke and mirrors," she said. "But this us, it's real." Lucas kissed her forehead, his arm around her. "It's the real thing I've got." They stood together, the city's chaos fading into the background. In the heart of Las Vegas, amidst the gamble of dreams and despair, they'd found something true, a love that outshone the neon, a family forged in the fire of survival.